I was 21 and I was determined to become a monk. Now this was as surprising to me as anyone in my family because I had been raised in Washington, D.C., and my father was an atheist and did not let us ever say prayers at the table for dinner. Parents were divorced, and my mom was what we called a holiday Christian, which is to say she never went to church, but being the proper Washingtonian Episcopalians, the kids were expected to do so in our Sunday best. And we never talked about God or Jesus, and I never felt at home in any kind of religion. But strangely, by the time I went to college, I decided to major in religious studies. And I met a teacher and I discovered Buddhism. But I became the kind of person that took everything really, really, really to heart. So I'd read somewhere a Zen Buddhist said, practice meditation as though your head is on fire. And so I would practice so hard, it was like I was trying to give birth on the cushion. And I would do week-long retreats. I would drive to Salt Lake City, I would drive to New Mexico, and I would meet with these teachers after practicing for 12 hours. And each of them would say to me, I think you're trying too hard. But I was so keen on the idea of enlightenment, on the idea of waking up and becoming all that I could be. So I was undeterred by this feedback. And then I met another teacher, and he said, I think you should go up into the mountains of Colorado, and you should join this community and do 2 or 3 weeks in the middle of winter. And I said, okay, because I was not one to back down from a challenge. So I showed up, and on the way up from Fort Collins, I took a bus up. The retreat had started 2 weeks earlier, and we'd shown up for the last part of it. And my companion on the ride was maybe 8 years older than me. He was a high rainforest entomologist, and he was gorgeous. And he looked like Tom Selleck. He had thick mustache and thick eyebrows, and he was tall, and he was quiet, and he looked stern, and that just made him even more alluring to me. And we showed up to the retreat, and he and I are put in a cabin with about 4 other women that you have to walk maybe half a mile to the meditation hall. And maybe day 3 of the retreat, it is in silence. You're not allowed to say anything. And I was like, I'm not going to say anything. I can do this. And about halfway through the day, we were broken up into groups and told that we had to do Rhoda. Now, Rhoda is basically when the Buddhist retreat gets you to do free labor for them in the guise of meditation practice. And I knew something about this. The woman who raised me was not really my mother. She was kind of my nanny, you could say. And she was smart this way too. She would wake us up at 5 a.m. and have us cleaning chandeliers or washing the floors. She would not do work, but she would have us 4 kids doing it. So I kind of knew what was going on. But really, you have to understand that if you've been meditating 8 hours a day and someone says, do you want to do the dishes? You're like, yes, I do. And so I was assigned to the bathroom in our cottage, our little cabin up in the mountainside. And I went in there, and there were really no cleaning supplies. There was like a weak sponge with no scrubby side and a little bit of spray. I was like, this will not do. I know how to clean. I have a half an hour. I'm going to clean this bathroom. And so I'm looking around the cottage, and there's nothing. And then in desperation, I look underneath. This tiny little bathroom has a flimsy little curtain, and there's one lone toothbrush sitting in there. And the toothbrush is foul looking. It's like the kind that is splayed open and yellow. And I'm like, a cleaning toothbrush, yes. And so I use it. And I clean the corners of the floor. I clean the grout. I clean everything. And I am delighted and proud of myself. And when I am done, I rinse it off and I put it back underneath the sink. And then I go back out and I'm getting ready because I know the bell's going to ring that we're about to go back in and meditate again. And I see Tom go into the bathroom. And I see him go underneath the sink and grab the toothbrush. And I'm like, no, but I'm so committed, I'm so serious about not talking that I'm not going to say anything to him in words. So I run to the bathroom and I go, and he shuts the door on me. He just shakes his head at me. And I'm like, I have to write a note. I have to find something to draw with. So I'm racing around. Everyone has already left for the shrine hall. And all I can find is my mascara brush, which I honestly was not putting on mascara during the retreat, but I had it. I was young then. And I find a piece of paper that I've torn out of the back of a book that I had brought. And I write in mascara, do not put that in your mouth. I used your toothbrush to clean the toilet. And I race to the bathroom and I knock on the door and he opens it up and his mouth is foaming. And I already have the note in my hand and he grabs it. And he gets the most nauseated look on his face. And he runs to the sink and he starts flushing his mouth out with water. And I was filled with remorse and shame. And then I just took off and I went to the meditation hall. And I sat in the very back and I didn't say a word because we were all in silence. And then maybe 3 hours into it, I started shaking. And the woman next to me put her hand on my shoulder. She was very concerned. And that just made me start shaking more. And then I started shaking so hard and making little squeaking sounds because I was laughing so hard. And I ended up having to leave because I could not stop laughing, and everyone thought I was crying. But I have to say that I learned that having a serious attitude is only half of the equation. You can apply all of your grit and all of your might, but the lightness and brightness and humor and of life and the utter absurdity has to have equal footing in anything that we try to do, and it definitely changed my spiritual journey. Thank you.